What is up, Bagels? Welcome back to episode 3 of Cast Workers.
That
I am Nurse, and I am joined here for the third time by Zeke.
I'm Coach Zeke. Hi everyone. Wow, that was a new record. That was what? Welcome everyone, bagels. That was the third word you said immediately, and you said it wrong.
What's up, Bagels?
That's
I feel
awesome.
like everyone has like a jaunty name for their viewers.
They're the bagels. That's what we're landing on. Yeah. Interesting. You know what? I guess that's what we're doing now. Wow. Okay. Hello, bagels. Bagels. Say it with me, everybody. Bagel. Bagel.
It's messed up in a big way.
You can do it. I believe in you.
Way. Someone tried to Vine boom you.
Oh, I know. Yeah, they can't do it. Yeah, no Vine booms for chat.
Right.
Sorry.
Well, welcome back, everybody. We have a spicy episode today, and I think the last couple we've been focusing on like tournaments and a little bit of reaction stuff, just because there's been a lot going on. And this episode, there's a little bit of a lull just between tournaments, and so after we talk about like kind of Twitch rivals and the RCS and a couple of the other things that are happening, we actually just have time for a more general topic that kind of has to do with the fighting game community and games as a whole, and kind of some of the opinions that me and Zeke have about that. Yeah.
Before we get into the main topic for today, we do want to mention that Olympia had some changes drop in the patch, as well as some other general changes, and we're going to talk about RCS like finally being real. But Olympia, how are you feeling? Because you've been playing a lot of Olympia, right?
Yeah, I got like a billion games on that character now.
Yeah,
I think. And I know we talked about this last time, but some people were of the opinion that she was like the best character on release, or at least in the conversation for it. And I had some conversations about the, I guess, kind of like volatile nature of the character, especially once you get to those higher levels.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand that their patch philosophy has had a lot to do with what is frustrating to play against. And without a doubt, Olympia had, and I mean still has to a degree, some aspects of her gameplay that were really frustrating to play against.
Yeah.
So in terms of what they toned down, I think they toned down pretty much exactly what I would have hit. Mm-hmm. And I know I had conversations with people about this that I don't know if they made it to the beta server, but it's pretty close to what I was suggesting. So
I'm
I was
very happy
with those.
Like, I made it really clear within my streams is like, as long as down tilt became auto floor huggable, it was a W. Anything else was just like the candy, extra candy for dinner. You know what I mean? Like, that's awesome. So I'm really happy with them changing that, and especially the invulnerability on the when you side B grab somebody like into the wall, like that whole thing getting changed. Those were great changes. I think those are the two that like most notably stuck with me, that like I actively feel it when I'm both playing her and against.
Yeah, I think for me, at the very least, the biggest change was what they did to Crystal.
Oh, the bug fix.
Yeah, the bug fix in terms of making it not clank with everything.
Yeah, that's big. You're right. That's the other one.
That was really big because it was pretty much a Falco laser.
Mm-hmm.
And then also like increasing the startup on Gem Dash and increasing the DI that you get from holding away meant that you don't get free Crystal Gem Dashes anymore, which was like
a little dumb
cornerstone of fighting characters like Loxodon, because what's he going to do about it, right? So it felt like in that regard, the dumb stuff, or at least the counterplay, got a little bit more clear because the DI is more significant. There's more end lag on the Gem Dash. So you have opportunities to play around it, as opposed to just you got hit with the crystal, now you freaking explode.
Yes.
And other stuff like the grab lockout on side B and stuff like that, not getting a guaranteed grab off of side B. Again, stuff that arguably should have been there in the first place. And then finally the up B change to make it a little less big. Both makes it easier to contest. It's still quite hard. But you can contest it now, and it makes the scoop hitbox a little less frustrating. So I think overall they hit everything that I would have hit in terms of making the character more reasonable.
Yep, I agree.
And fun to deal with. while also keeping her strong. Like up air didn't get
Yeah.
touched, fair didn't get touched,
Nope.
up throw didn't get. Oh, up throw did get touched,
Yes,
but
it
not
did.
like to a crazy degree.
No, I think it was good. Because they made it so that it has more knockback growth, right?
Yeah, higher percents.
Yeah, that I think that's a good thing because it still is the combo throw at low percents and just doesn't
Yeah.
have up throw up B for a really long time on
Or up
everybody in
throw
the game.
fair. Yeah,
Yeah.
still 130.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so stuff like that I think is good. She still has aspects of her that are strong. She still has those aspects that are pretty weak.
Absolutely.
I will be interested to see how the meta kind of evolves around her because I think she's one of
Yes.
the more fun characters in the game, without a doubt. She feels fun to play, even despite the frustrating aspects of her weaknesses. So I think she's going to be seen a lot.
Yeah. No, sorry to cut you off there. I was
No,
going to
go
mention
ahead.
in relation to that, like her being really fun. I think she's also one of the characters that like all of her moves like make the most sense. I think the only thing that's like, oh, that's how that works is like the up air spike, but everything else makes sense and is familiar enough, especially for people coming from Smash. I think she feels, as most people have noticed, like a Spacey. She is the character that actually feels like a Spacey and has a lot of moves adjacent to that, and even her throws, like it's very intentionally done. And I think it's a great way to get people in because she's got a lot of really fun buttons and they make sense how they work and they make sense how they combo. And as time goes, they'll tune them and adjust them. But I think she's in a good spot right now where there are a couple outstanding things that can definitely be tweaked. But right now, I'm still having a great time playing against her or as her, and I think that's what matters.
Yeah, I think once you get to some of those like lower levels, the frustration level increases because of like ease of use or it kind of ease of getting into kill confirms, which not every character has.
I was gonna say, I think at the like lower mid level, you'll feel this a lot, and then at the tippy top level, also you will feel this, where you're like, if you're like the fleet fighting the Olympia, and you're like, yeah, you sure did down tilt me and I wasn't ready and I died at 100. Yeah, that I felt that. And like I empathize with both parties on this. I think that there is shared stuff with this. But again, it's like there's lots of stuff like this, or even just like, you know, the thing that everyone deals with right now is like the forward air into jab mix up. Like that's one of those things that like it might change, it might not. We don't really know. But everyone is pretty much on the same page of not liking that right now.
I mean, it's strong, but like, are we going to pretend other characters aren't doing it?
Yeah,
like, do you know what I mean? Like, that's
exactly.
I guess that's my question is they've already determined that that is okay.
Yep.
Right? Like Zetterburn and Rano both do that.
Curious.
And so the devs have kind of said this is a mix up that we think is okay. At the very least, like right now.
Yeah.
And so I would be down with the changing aspects of Olympia in regards to that, but only if that was like a universal designed decision.
Yeah.
So I think if you start removing stuff like that from Olympia, you just start making her weak because other characters already have it.
Yep. My prediction. So I want to kind of start to segue. I want to make one prediction each of us of like something that you think will happen within future patches, whether it be like an engine change or a very character targeted specific thing. My thing, I think the engine change that we're going to get within the next few months, and I've been seeing people on the note board suggest this as well, is making the like shield grab post hits, like post your shield being hit, a little more generous to be able to buffer it. Not the full buffer that we used to have. I think it's going to be a little bit nicer to us because right now, sometimes you get hit by like one or two moves and you're like, every time I press to grab, it got eaten, and it just doesn't. And especially online, I think is when it feels the worst. Is like if you're the one playing in the 3 buffer, that's one of the very few things that I will be like, yeah, that felt bad trying to grab that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no buffer right now.
Yeah, no, you can't buffer it at all.
And there used to be. I remember when there was. And I was kind of a dissident of that change when it came out. I'm sure you remember.
Yes.
That I thought that was just like artificial balancing almost. Like it
was
felt
meant
like
to make
it
moves
wasn't
safer.
actually addressing a problem. Because the moves aren't literally safer. They're just... There's an arbitrary skill check behind them.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a skill check. Yeah.
I think doesn't feel great.
No.
Because it's not like a skill expression thing. It's just do you have this like frame by frame timing down? And I
Yep.
think that's something Olympia really benefits from. Stuff like
Yes.
down tilt
Oh,
and jab and
you
like
could like,
forward
it's a
tilt,
long list.
forward air.
It's
Like
a long
they're
list.
those are things that are grabbable if you can buffer it. So I
Yeah.
think there's pretty huge implications um
Yep. I
to a
agree.
change like that, but I don't necessarily dislike it because I think it gives the devs more control
Yeah.
of, okay, this is a move that we think should be unsafe, this is a move that we think should be safe,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
I don't like this idea of the move is technically unsafe, but sometimes you get away with
The
it.
magic forces have decided that you can't grab because you pressed it too fast. Like I hate my whole thing with this game is like slowly as things pass, we have a less like the magic forces control less. You know what I mean? The under the hood, the
Yeah,
like you
yeah,
have no
yeah.
idea why it didn't work. Everyone tells you it works, but it didn't work because the magical forces said it wouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. And I think for me,
hmm
the change I would like to see would be a dedicated tilt on every character that beats floor hugging every time.
Ooh, interesting.
Because not every character has one.
Yeah,
Some do.
yeah, yeah.
But I think every character should have one.
You know, as
That
someone who
just
likes playing
it
Aetherless,
doesn't have to fucking do anything. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to do anything else.
as someone who likes playing Aetherless, I agree with you. Yes, please give me a move that lets me fight Orcane while facing him. That would be really cool.
Yeah,
That
it'd be
isn't
pretty
really their
sick.
approach with F tilt. Because right now, that's all. That's the finesse. Is I have to read it, and that's not the greatest feeling right now. That's not the greatest feeling. But
Yeah.
I think something like that, it wouldn't surprise me. I know that they've been very transparent in that they've been talking about floor hugging. They've been doing a lot of changes with things like the parry stuff, like we've talked about. And for reference, for anyone that doesn't know, if you parry somebody, your next move, even if it's a light or medium hit stun, cannot be floor hugged. So, for example, if you are Olympia and you parry the Maple, you parry them, your down tilt cannot be floor hugged, which can guarantee you a kill confirm, which gives a lot more combo
Yeah.
expression and stuff like that. I really like it. I like that change.
Which is a great
lot.
change. Yeah,
Yeah.
it should be like
Yeah.
that.
Same with the if you get spiked on the ground and you enter with pretty much everyone who's called it flinch, right? I don't know what the official word for it is, but if
It's
you're
like
at
crush state in a
yeah,
different game.
I
Yeah.
hate it. We want to call it like so many different things. Like it's rough. But basically, if you get spiked in the ground and you don't bounce, and it's like you tried to CC or floor hug, you can also not floor hug the next thing. And like I like that they're adding more things like that. That they're essentially making things that help you. On both sides, it's like rewarded with your defensive options and your aggressive options being able to fight floor hugging and CC just a little bit more. It's a direction that I really like because it's not something you're always going to fight at all times in all game states. It's like you earn that down air, you earn that parry. Like I like that a lot personally.
Yeah, my only issue with this is the majority of time, especially regarding this like crumple flinch, whatever you want to call it, is relevant. It's on down airs, which in this game are like overwhelmingly the strongest moves every character has.
Yes, that's the hard part. Yeah.
And I guess when I mention like I want tilts that beat floor
Yes.
hug or even tilts that beat crouch cancel, starting at 0, I don't want everyone to live or die by how good their down air is.
No, I agree with that.
And it feels like
Yeah.
almost every top tier in the game has a ridiculous down air.
It's either a down air or like a move that has a very powerful spike with like a really nasty hitbox. Yeah.
Yeah, because like Rano has fair, which is basically a down air.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, there's so many instances where the moves that put you in this crumple are also
Just
combo
good.
starters and
Yeah.
are also safe
Yeah.
and are also just good. Yeah, so
Yeah,
they've
it's the safe
become
part.
very over centralized in the kit because it's like why would you not just dare, right? There's no negative to doing it other than maybe you get parried, but it also leads to like the biggest combos, the biggest conversions, the biggest everything. So it's even worth it to go for it on tech chases
Yeah.
as a lark because it just gets you 60+% every time.
I definitely have been starting to implement like as Olympia doing like soft bear tech chase setup. and then just like jumping
you
and
just
daring them,
dare.
and you just dare
Yeah,
them.
why not?
Because
Why not?
I'm just inherently rewarded for doing it. No, that is, I think you're right. I think it's interesting, and I think something like a tilt could
Just give me a
definitely be
tilt.
could be cool. But obviously,
Like,
anything, as with anything, I hope they take the time to be testing it, and I know they're testing lots of creative things. Obviously, neither of us are in beta for any of our listeners right now, so strictly
good.
speculatory. Like, I'm just saying it for the sake of saying it. A lot of people think like I'm in beta all the time, and it's like, no, guys,
oh yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not in beta at all. I don't know anything that's happening at all.
Yeah, I think an interesting example is stuff like Arcane F tilt or Olympia F tilt. If you make those moves like a little bit faster, safer, more usable in neutral, as moves that don't necessarily get anything, like they don't start combos,
But they
don't
kill you.
Yeah, they kill you later.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's at really low percents. All they need to do is just get a hit in.
Okay. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Right? Like I want
Yeah.
moves that just do that and be like, okay, if this person's crouching, I can get my hit.
You know what
And
move I
then set up
actually
some form of like advantage.
You know what move I actually really like the way they designed it is or almost really like it. There's one part of it I don't like, but Olympia up tilt. I actually really like the concept of that move where it's like it has an anti-air that is a little too big right now in my opinion, just teeny tiny, just the littlest bit too big, but the part coming down where it's like actually like can spike you. I like that
cool.
because it's really creative. There's a lot of like self-expression with like turning yourself around and doing it. How you can use it to like reset or in combos, or again, there are times where you're scrapping and you can position yourself or face a certain way where like I've done like back air, turn around, up tilt, and like scooped and moved my hurt box to then hit that and catch them holding down and then get to continue.
Yeah,
I
think that's a great
like
example.
That.
Yeah, I think that's a great example of a move that will beat. It's a tilt that will beat floor hug and crouch cancel.
Yep.
And it is one of the very, very few, and that does lead to a combo.
Yes.
I'm not saying all of them need to.
Yeah.
But I think a move like that is really interesting in its implementation because it has such a dedicated use like that virtually no other tilt has.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm really excited to see, like, I want to see them keep cooking up more creative ideas, because right now, like, I'm on board. Like, I like the patch a lot. I think everyone is genuinely really fun to play right now. I think in previous patches that was not the case, and I think since Olympia launch, I have had fun just clicking a character and pressing buttons with them, and that's really awesome.
Yeah, I think my only like outlier to a degree is like Raster, and I think Raster.
You don't get it.
Maybe I don't get it. I think Raster gets fun. Maybe when you put more time into it.
Oh yeah, he's a high skill character for sure.
I put like 7 or 8 hours into it, and just
you got to hit the training mode. That's what it is.
Playing the game below 60% is truly miserable.
Yep,
yeah,
it's
and
miserable.
I think that's what most people get stuck behind, because I don't think that changes regardless of how good you get.
No,
I think it's miserable no matter what. Like,
no, I can definitely tell you with the Rasters I've coached, and many of which who've asked me for advice about this, it's no, he gets to become the best character or one of the best characters in the game past 60%. But before then, you're trucking along.
Yeah, it feels like he doesn't do anything.
He's trucking along. Yeah. All right. Let's talk about RCS.
Yes.
Let's talk about RCS. Also, if any lovely devs or people that work at Aether Studios, please make a post somewhere that has all of the information about RCS, because every day I have been asked which tournaments count and which ones don't. This needs to be more publicized. It needs to be shown in the game.
You already have a nice graph for it. Like, just post a screenshot of the graph.
I think they posted the map like the day of, but I couldn't find it again today. I admittedly, but someone, God bless you, chat. Combo Breaker, Gommel, CEO, Evo, and Supernova are the first 5 tournaments that are going to count. They said that there will be more, but these are the first 5 that they're confirming. I would assume Heatwave later this year will be on that list. Same with Riptide will probably be there too if they didn't announce it. I don't remember if they did. Oh no, they did announce Riptide also. Oh, that's weird that they didn't announce Heatwave.
They also announced 2 online events that are going to count. One that's coming up pretty quick, and then another one that's later in the year. So
Yeah.
for people who aren't able to travel, there still are opportunities for events and stuff like that. 100%.
Yeah. Congratulations to Zeus to Goose, who's gonna get flown
Zeus
out to
to
Gommel
Goose.
for winning the tournament or something like that. It's gonna be cool. Either way, like I'm glad that they're like in the past they've had like online RCS stuff and they're doing a little bit of love because they know that it's hard to get to events, especially in the current climate of the world right now. Like it's tough.
Yeah, and there's only 5 or 6, so it's not like
exactly.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited. I think that that's gonna be a really fun event. I hope everyone has fun in every one of these events. I encourage you all to go to any of these events listed. I think they're all good, like well-known events to some degree, and I will be at a couple of them. I will be at Gommel. I will be at Supernova. I will be at Riptide.
Yeah, I will be at Gommel 100%. I will be at Supernova and Riptide, depending on if certain things
the
line
magical
up
forces.
the way that
the magical
forces.
Yes.
Yeah, let's say that the magical forces will determine if I'm at those.
Yeah.
But I would love to be there, and so I think there's potential for other tournaments. I imagine that they might look at somewhere like UFA as a potential tournament.
I can see that. That would be
for
cool.
Europe, which would be very cool.
Speaking of, I'm surprised Valhalla isn't going to count. That's this weekend? Next weekend?
I don't know. Maybe
that's the big European one. It might have just not been in time that they were able to get it figured out.
Yeah.
They do have a skin, though.
They probably wanted to give people like a certain degree of notice.
Yeah. And I think that's good. I think that's good.
Either way, as more events get added, I'm sure that's something we'll keep on top of. And for any events that count, we will obviously be doing a recap, whatever. If we weren't there, or probably if we were there, regardless. So I think that's something to look forward to. And with the first one being Combo Breaker coming up pretty soon, we won't have to wait very long to start kind of discussions about what this season's going to look like for people. And I think a lot of people are wondering between Marlin, Cake, and some of the people on the outside of that, of like Beastly and Zeus and a couple of the other people, Stango, Spargo, who is going to be the one to kind of take these early couple tournaments.
Yeah. I can't wait to just watch more good rivals. I don't know how else to put it. I think that this is exactly what everyone's been waiting for. It's like it's time to lock in, it's time to grind, it's time to sweat. Like a lot of people are motivated to travel again, which is great to hear. And I am excited to see and meet many of you guys at the events that I'll be at. Gommel, baby, Gommel. Finally, my first Gommel. I'm so excited. And also at Gommel, soft reminder, I will have a coaching booth available to come and get mini 30-minute coaching sessions with me and or opportunities to play with some of the top players that I coach that will be in attendance. So if you are interested in that, like Nurse, but yeah, you guys will definitely be able to come by and say hello to us. I'm sure Nurse will be hanging out with me lots, so we'll be there.
Yeah, I'll be around.
I think that's pretty much everything about RCS. I hope we just get more information about like the structure, like the point system, the rules. I'm really looking forward to the rules.
The rules will be fun. Yeah,
really a big fan of that. I'm hoping, SBS, hit me up if you need help, bro. I'm down. But there might be a certain controller we have to talk about.
I wasn't even thinking about that. I was more so thinking about like what they end up going for a point system, and if certain events end up counting more than others based on size or
online versus offline as well.
Online versus offline. I think there's a lot of questions we have in terms of what for the league is going to count, and also how we get people to events, especially people like Zeus, who maybe don't travel as much.
Yeah.
If they are in contention, how maybe we support him in getting to events, even through those online ones.
Yeah, exactly. And I think people like that do deserve that opportunity 100%.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be interesting to see. And like I said, we'll keep you guys updated as more of that stuff drops, because we'll be following
Yes.
the league pretty closely insofar as just being there and commentating and whatever else we end up doing.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I think that's everything we have to say about RCS. Do we start now? Is this when we get to the fun part?
I think very, very, very quickly, we can just give a shout out to Twitch Rivals.
Oh, right. Oh my God. I
For
forgot. We
running
literally
Rivals.
watched it.
Yeah, we did watch it.
Fuck. Yeah, no, that was super awesome. It was really, really cool to get to watch. We played bingo. Nurse watched with me and Zeus, and Banana, Zeus's wife. We had a lovely time, and then Nurse left us. She bailed. But huge shout outs. Huge shout outs to Twitch for running that really fun event. Congrats to everyone who got invited. That was super fun to watch. And congrats to Ion and his team for cooking, and shout outs to Dan for showing
Going
up.
0-4, baby. That's my guy.
That's my go. That's my go right there. I loved it. Yo, Dan said he would play Brawl with me. And I hope he goes to Supernova. He said he would play Brawl with me on Cake's stream. I'm really, really looking forward to that. Genuinely.
There's no way.
100%. He does. That was his game. That was his game he played. Yeah. He was a Brawl player. Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah, he was a Brawl player.
Shout out Dan.
Yeah, shout out to Dan. That's my hero. Thank you, Mr. Dan Fernacci. But no, Twitch Rivals was really fun. I hope we get to do another one. And yeah, I don't think there was really anything else to talk about that.
I mean, the format's fun.
Yeah.
And you get to see people you maybe didn't know. I feel like people like Tierzoo and a couple others were like, oh, these people kind of like,
they play.
I wouldn't say they're like amazing, but they're like, they kind of get it. And I think it's that, to a degree, at least a little better than if you just got a bunch of random people and threw them in there.
Yeah, I agree. I think the way they did the skill tiers and stuff like that was very fun and like exciting to watch, especially like I think this game is genuinely fun to watch at like every level, which is not something I say 100%. About every game I watch. So that was really interesting because I definitely had more fun than I thought, which is cool. I've thoroughly enjoyed the whole experience. Besides, I will give one complaint, which is the casters plus team mics on at the same time. That we can't do that anymore. As someone with like sensory issues, we can't be doing that. But plus all the constant things on the layout changing, it was just too much. Besides that though, it was a lovely experience. But there was definitely a point where I was like, I got so overstimulated. I just stopped talking for like 20 minutes.
Well, I remember you like muted everything and then like went to the actual players' POVs.
I couldn't do it. I crashed out.
I mean, it's tough. That's a lot going on at once.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's something they'll end up figuring out.
Exactly.
But yeah, having casters and players and their mics and multiple POVs and ads and the stream overlay. It's just like, what am I doing here?
It was ADHD simulator with more and Knuckles.
And Knuckles, no Subway Surfer.
Yeah, no Subway Surfer. Yeah. But no, that was super cool, and I really do hope that it did well, and that we get to do another one. Because even if I don't get to ever be in one of those, it was really fun to watch, genuinely.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Cool. I think that is everything on our list besides our main topic.
All right. Do you want to bring up the instigating tweet, or do we want to save that?
Yeah, we can talk about the instigating tweet. I'll just put the picture up here. This is going to be pretty simple, guys. So there's this thing, guys, called playing in diagonals.
This is new, by the way. No one said this before.
This is a new sentence that I had never heard in my decade.
Yeah, this is not like FGC nomenclature. This is not.
This is not even outside of FGC. I've never heard this said in a serious manner of any way. You are playing me in diagonals. This is a fascinating concept, and I think it just goes to show, which is our main topic for today, which is fighting games are really hard. Like all of them are really hard for different reasons completely, but I think above all else, like platform fighters have this really special level of difficulty which I think comes from how much agency you actually have with how the move works, the different hitboxes, the positioning, the platform. Like, it's crazy.
I always say when I describe to people what makes platform fighters difficult and why platform fighter players actually end up having a lot of success transferring to other games a lot of the time is because platform fighters introduce so much variance
Yes.
into fighting games as a whole.
Yes.
Just consider a couple things. You can SD. That's the big.
Yeah,
in every other genre
die.
of fighting game, you cannot kill yourself. But, you have no corner.
Yeah.
So there's no pressure being set up in the corner. And because of how much freedom you have to move around the stage, the variance of when hitboxes work, how hitboxes shift, and how different things interact around the stage add a layer of variance that traditional fighting games don't have.
Yes.
Combine this with the fact that the percent-based system that most platform fighters take on also means that combos don't work in the same way and setups don't work in the same way.
No.
As in, they're not consistent across percent ranges. And so when you think about fighting games and the complexity of fighting games as a whole, and then transferring that to platform fighters, I think variance is my like word of the day for that, because it really does add layers upon layers of things that can go wrong.
Yeah, no, and I think like on top of that, like to kind of go back to what I mentioned too, where it's like it's the variance, but it also enables like that excessive amount of agency where like I feel like in most conventional fighting games, it's like this is where you press like back heavy. This is where you do it. This is the right place. You know, you could do it here if you really wanted to, but like this is the right way to use it, right? And they design moves with like purposeful intent for like game states a lot. Where like in Smash, it's like my forward air could have 4 different hitboxes and be used in 7 different ways on top of that. Like that shit is crazy. It's so much depth that exists in that. And then I think the biggest thing that I find, having talked to a lot of people that come from like not only just different fighting games, but different like genres of games, is that character feel in platform fighters are dramatically different. When you click Jigglypuff in Melee and then you click Fox, it's a whole different game you are playing to some degree, like feel wise.
Yeah. I think that's an interesting conversation. And if we get into the broader conversation about fighting games, I think that's an aspect of why fighting games are difficult.
Yes.
If we look at a game like Valorant, and I'll use Valorant as an example, but
I do love your Valorant.
You know, you could talk about Counter-Strike, you could talk about a number of other popular esports games. In Valorant and Counter-Strike in particular, the mechanics stayed largely the same from map to map. The map is where variance is introduced, and in Valorant, different agents have different utility that do different things, but the actual fundamentals of the game, the gunplay, how shops work, different things like that, stay consistent across the game.
Right. Yep.
Compared to in a fighting game, depending on the character that you pick, the game
has new
just
rules.
Is very drastically different, right? Yeah. And if you look at a game like Guilty Gear, I think is one of the best examples. I think Guilty Gear's design philosophy is surrounding characters breaking a rule in some way.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Every character breaks their own rule. And so when you pick up different characters in that game, you have to learn what that rule is, learn how you break it, and then have a wildly different experience of the game as a result of that. And I think when you apply that to platform fighters, where characters have different weights, different speeds, different ways of playing the game, different like everything, you're going to have a very different time playing, let's say, Smash Ultimate if you are playing Snake.
I was just going to say Snake. Snake is such an example, like my favorite example of character that just completely changes the rules of the game. And it's like in a dramatic sense where it's literally like he pulls a grenade and the game immediately changes the way you are allowed to play it now. So many things change because the entity exists. And I think that's the part that like people fail to like understand, and what really makes it so much harder. I think a lot of the other games like you mentioned is like there is like a baseline of like these are the tools that everyone has. But like in like Smash and Rivals and even like in Guilty Gear, I think it's a great example of like a conventional fighting game that does this. It's like, you know, we can all do this, but I also have this in my pocket, and you have to respect this or you auto lose. Like you literally auto lose. And sometimes it's to an extreme, like Snake Grenade, or like oh, what's his name? Like the puppet character Zato. Like I think is a great example.
Sure.
Where
yeah.
like he has, I mean, obviously he's changed a lot since like launch, but I feel like at launch it was like, these are the things you don't give a puppet character, and they gave him all of them, like all of them.
Puppet characters are hard to
They're
balance.
crazy, and it's like stuff like that I think happens all the time in these games, especially like live service ones, so to speak, where they're actively being updated. But like a really small example of this, and I'm going to use Smash Ultimate again as a reference, is like Bayonetta, where it's like if you jump in this range, you're getting jump side beat by her. Like you're just going to. It is objectively like the thing is, it's incredibly dangerous and high risk to do that, because now she's comboing you, or now you die. Like there's lots of little rules like that without playing or having like a deep understanding of the game and the engine and how all these characters work and all of that stuff, you will just perpetually get skill checked by.
Yeah, and I think that is. I was having this conversation with someone this morning, but it is part of what makes games like Smash Ultimate frustrating to a degree.
Yes.
And I don't want to call it Smash Ultimate frustrating perpetually, but you know, when you play against Steve for the first time and he puts 3 blocks behind him and your entire understanding of the game needs to change.
Yeah.
Or, you know, even when you play it, like 2XKO is a good example. If you play Jinx in the new build and you don't know that her stuff bounces off of itself, or that she gets OTG from her rocket launcher, or you don't know that that Darius applies bleed if he gets you in the corner and hits you with a certain move.
So funny.
Like, there are certain moves that are just skill checks, right? Or you don't know that this thing is safe, or you don't know how parry works. And I think fighting games more than any other game, and I think this would be my thesis statement if I had to make one about this whole topic, but it would be that fighting games are designed fundamentally where you want to let your opponent play the game as little as possible. Yeah. And I think a lot of competitive games are designed like that to a degree. Yeah. But I think fighting games exemplify it more than anything, because if you get skill checked enough times, you literally do not get to play. Yeah, you just auto lose. Whereas, again, if we go back to something like Valorant, Overwatch, Marvel Rivals, League of Legends, if you die or get skill checked or whatever, 1, you can blame your teammates, but 2, you still get to play. Yeah. Right? Yeah. There's more rounds. Yeah. There's more time on the clock. There's another, like, you respawn, and there is like time in between where even if you're getting owned, you still get to shoot back. Yeah. No, right? Or you still get to press buttons and do something. Whereas in fighting games, if you're playing someone who's better than you, you don't get to play. There's nothing you can do. I feel like more than any other game, as someone that's played competitively in FPS, third-person shooters, in card games, in RTSs. I've played all these games for so many years. The fighting games, and especially platform fighters, are the ones that have the most power given to the magical forces of all these things that you do not understand and have to put in the time and effort to genuinely research and like seek out, because a lot of these games like do not provide a like conducive way to learn this. I think one of the few games on like the conventional fighting side that's really good, at least on the very, very entry level, is like Guilty Gear with their like, what is it? Like their tutorials, the drills. I don't remember what they're called. Yeah, Guilty Gear has a great tutorial system, and people always look to, what game is it? Skullgirls for like a gold that's a good one. Standard for tutorials where the tutorials feel daunting to look at because there's like 4 fucking pages of them. But the game walks you through on like a procedural level okay, this is what you need to know. This is what teching is. This is what pressure in the corner is. This is what Oki is. This is what all of these words that don't actually mean anything unless you've been a part of the community for 10 years. Like,
speaking of like 4 pages tutorials, that reminded me of when I played not what most people refer to as a fighting game, but Dragon Ball Sparking Zero came out last year, earlier in the year. And I know you're immediately like, what? The tutorials in this game were so good, but there was unironically like 40 of them. Oh my god, that is literally skill check the game. If there's ever a game that you want to like experience, like what is it like to just play somebody and get skill checked and never get to play the game, it's that. What do you even call that genre? Arena fighter?
Arena fighters.
Oh my god, like the new Bleach game came out or whatever. Oh my god. Like these games are notoriously balanced really poorly, but the big reason why they're so
it's
hard.
on purpose.
Yeah, it's on purpose, right? Like that's the thing, right? Like that's the whole point. But like the whole thing with it is like there are so many little teeny tiny mechanics, especially in like Dragon Ball, where it's like the way you can parry, and there's the new block system in the game, and there's holy moly, I was like, this is the coolest game ever. Like actually. But everyone is going to quit this game because you're going to go into ranked and you're going to play some guy who has 700 hours and could beat you with his eyes closed, listening to the sounds of the options you're picking, and you just auto lose, just straight up. And I think that is like a great extreme of where that happens. Yeah, no, that shit's crazy. I loved it, but like I get why stuff like that is incredibly daunting. And I guess to kind of segue into our second half of this topic is like, for people at different skill levels, the mistake a lot of people make is like, I have to be X good to enter a tournament or start playing ranked or any of this stuff. And I always encourage people to like do some of the tutorials, you know, watch some videos, try play the game, or if you have friends around your level, that's the best way to do it, and then go back and do more tutorials. And it's like, go and work through it and like trial and error and fail, and like it's not always going to be fun though. That's the part you have to just like sign up for, and that's like ranked in any game. It's not always going to be fun,
or you have to find that like grind aspect fun. And when you talk about like,
is the key word.
Yeah, not necessarily the actual doing it fun, but that like motivation. And this is getting into like kind of the psychology side of it. And it's kind of called intrinsic motivation. As in, your motivation to playing the game has to come from like within you. And so it can't be based on like external stuff, like I want to do well in tournament only.
Yeah.
Because if you just want to do well in tournament but are miserable every aspect of playing the game, you're never going to get that like payoff because it's not consistent.
No.
Winning tournaments is not always 100% in your control, despite what people will have you believe. And so
people watch Sonic Box win over and over and over, and they're like, oh, you could just get that good. And it's like, no, it doesn't work like that. Yeah. Nobody realizes how much work people like them put in endlessly.
Yeah, and also like the circumstances surrounding like support Sonic Box had to play games as much as they did.
Yes, exactly.
That's not to like downplay Sonic Fox.
No. It's a privilege.
It's not. It's not circumstances everyone has.
No. It is
and
absolutely
I'm sure they
a
would
privilege.
Be first to admit that.
Oh, they definitely have on the record, like been like, yeah, I'm so lucky to have been able to do this, to get to this point, and to keep doing it.
Yeah. But regardless, I think kind of the point being, intrinsic motivation means that some of the satisfaction of playing the game, that motivation to keep getting better, comes from just the feeling you get when you play.
Yep.
And so regardless of if ranked is frustrating you or making you angry or whatever, or like really fun and you're having a great time, that's not necessarily what matters. But more so what matters is, does that experience of the grind, of getting better, of learning new things, does that make you feel like you're accomplishing something?
Yes.
Whether that be like you're working towards the goal of being better in tournaments, you're working towards the goal of perfecting a skill, entering the flow state, whatever it might be, that degree of satisfaction cannot come from the results, but more so has to come from within you, and that like journey aspect of getting there. Because if it doesn't, you're going to burn yourself out of playing. You can't will yourself to
liking the game,
amazing and like the game. You can't.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and kind of to bounce off that, like, this is a really big thing that, like, this will happen at all skill levels, and especially with live service games that change. Lots of these games change the way they work, mechanical things, engine changes. I've seen waves of things. I've quit games because I didn't like the way engines have changed. It happens. It's all part of it, and just like owning it is what you got to do. Because if you just like are trying to just manifest motivation and joy from the universe, you will always leave disappointed. Regardless of if you win or lose or how much fun you have, there will always be that like empty feeling that you get because you are not like actually enjoying the process to its fullest. And like compounding the like satisfaction of like the growth, the amount of like fun you have or don't, and then the feelings you get when you do or don't succeed is so important. And like, oh my goodness, like there's a level of like trusting the process you have to do, but if you are just sitting there and trying to like manifest happiness from nothing, you have to like take a step back and re-examine like, why am I doing this? What do I get from this?
Yeah, and I can't tell you how many times I've seen people grind into the abyss.
Oh,
Do you know what I mean? Like,
I mean,
this expectation of I put X amount of hours into this game for X amount of time.
Yes.
And I should be X good. Right?
Yes.
And this idea of I am owed improvement based on the amount of time put in or the amount of like perceived effort put in, just it doesn't exist. And this idea, it really does come back to this concept of intrinsic motivation of that improvement and that desire to improve needs to come from like within you. Yes. And I'm not even saying, and again, this may be controversial, but I'm not even saying it has to be a good reason.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even saying, you know, some mental coaches out there or whatever will tell you, oh, you have to love the game. You have to enjoy the game. You have to XXX the game. That's like positive. And I don't even believe that. I think you can very realistically be like, this is horse shit.
Yeah.
And then also use that frustration or anger to motivate you to be like, okay, how do I deal with it? How do I beat these people who stink?
It's all about having like a healthy relationship, because it's like what you need to be able to do is be like, you know what, this pisses me off, right? And it's like the way I always tell people this, like when in my coaching, is like you can go to bracket and you can lose and you think it's horseshit and it's whatever, but it's like, you know what, be mad about it that day, right? When you wake up tomorrow, what are you doing about it? What is the productive thing that you're actively trying to do so that you stop feeling like it's horseshit? Or are you done?
I think it can be horseshit.
Oh no! What I mean is like it's the like impact of just like if every time you sit there and like that horseshit thing happens and that's the thing that causes the spiral. How do we deal with that, right? Because if you just let that be the commanding emotion in the moment, especially in like a bracket in like a fighting game, it's just like, GG, you're out. Like you're getting caught. That thing hits you, the spiral, immediate. It's learning how to cope and accept these things. We're like, you know what, it is horseshit, but we got to deal with it. This is the game we play, right? You know?
Yeah, I think it's definitely that acceptance piece of it's a concept called radical acceptance, and you'll see this in psychology if you follow it. But it's this idea of, okay, this is something that exists and is going to happen. It's outside of my control. It's outside of anything I can do.
Yep.
Right. So how do I accept it? Good or bad, right?
Yeah.
Radical acceptance is not about if the thing is valid or not. It's about if the thing is going to happen or not.
You will,
and in many cases in fighting games, you're going to get shine up strong. That's just the life we live.
Yeah,
that's what this game is. And so, from a perspective of radical acceptance, you accept that is going to happen. That is something that can happen, despite it being horseshit. And the satisfaction can come from, okay, this thing is stupid, but I learned how to deal with it, or learned how to mitigate it, or learned how to win despite it.
Yes.
And so the satisfaction comes from, I accept that this thing exists. I know it exists, but I got good enough that I overcome it.
Yes.
And so that's how you kind of use anger and frustration to motivate you to improve. Again, intrinsically, this has nothing to do with your results or doing it every time or whatever. but more so has to do with, okay, I am motivated to be the best I can.
Yep.
I know that this should not procure me from winning,
Exactly.
and I should be able to deal with it. I can
Yeah.
deal with it, so I'm going to. And
Yeah.
there are instances where if a character is OP or too good, right?
OP
There may be
in my
cases
video game?
there
No.
may be cases where you can't beat it, or not reasonably or reliably, right?
Yeah.
And so what is the acceptance piece there? You either accept that you are introducing a level of variance into your play that is going to be frustrating, which is fair. You can accept that. Or you pick up that character, right? And
yeah, you embrace
comes,
it. You embrace the chaos. Yeah.
Well, as a competitor, there comes a degree of what are you willing to accept for your quote unquote enjoyment or continued motivation to play the game.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, no, something how do I word this? Something I tell people a lot is like, one of the first things I'll say when it comes to like the process of learning and like all of that is like, and I've said it a few times already today, is like, it's not always going to be fun. It's not. And it's like thinking that it is, you're gaslighting yourself completely. There are going to be things that piss you off, and it's about like embracing the fact that you are feeling this way about it and trying to like, it's about solving problems, but you're allowed to get pissed off and you're allowed to get frustrated, and it can fuel you, just like you said. There is so much to work with in maintaining that like a healthy relationship, not just with the game always, but like with the process of learning. That's the part, that's like the skill check everyone fails pretty much, for a very, very large majority of people. And like, this kind of pairs back to what we mentioned, where it's just like, regardless of the skill level that you're playing these games at, you will have to learn these lessons over and over and over and over and over and over and over.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think there is a conversation, and perhaps a conversation that's outside of the scope of this episode, but the idea that fighting games are mentally more difficult because there's no one to blame but the other character or you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
one of them's a lot easier to
degree,
do. Someone in this VC might be one of those people who's quite good at that. Who's quite good at that.
But, you know, blaming a character or another character or whatever.
Yeah.
Realistically, you can only truly believe it for so long. And what I mean by this is, you know, you can blame characters forever. I'll tell you to your face that Zetterburn's stupid.
Look, Ronno back here. No.
Yeah, as long as I have to. As long as I have to. But to a degree, I know I could always pick Ronno. I could always pick Zetterburn.
Yep.
And that there are counterplay to both of these moves because those characters don't win every single thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And so you kind of have to have that conversation with yourself of, okay, is it the character? No, not necessarily. Other people are doing it and it seems reasonable. So it's me.
Yeah.
And
it's the self-accountability. That's the hardest part.
That's very, very hard for a lot of people. And I think especially people at lower levels and casuals getting into the game, and people at mid levels, and honestly people at high levels as
well. Up until like literally like when it comes to platform fighters, as someone who has coached the entire spectrum of skill in these games, all the way up until like top 10, this stuff happens. Yeah. And even those people will like experience this and like drop and then climb their way back up and drop and climb their way back up. And it's like, this is what I mean, where it's like, you are going to have to learn these lessons over and over. You don't just get it. There will always be new problems found as games develop, as games change and evolve, as new games come out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think when you compare that to other popular esports, League, Dota, you know, Counter-Strike, Valorant, Overwatch, Rivals, Marvel Rivals, whatever you want to pick, you know what you can do every single time is blame your teammates and blame. No,
I will.
The randoms in your lobby and blame whoever, right? Like it's so easy in games like that to offload the responsibility of what went wrong. Yeah. And I think this is maybe a hot take, but this is my opinion on where onboarding goes wrong for fighting games.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
In that when someone comes up against this wall for the first time in a game like, let's use Marvel Rivals as an example, where they're like, oh, my DPS players are so shitty, like that's the reason I'm not ranking up, whatever. You can just believe that.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, it's really easy to just believe it. It's not your fault.
You really can. And then you also can hold out hope that you're just going to have a couple games where they are good enough and you win and you rank up or whatever, right?
Yeah,
like when you're at a low level, casual level, even mid level, that's all super doable for a very long 100%. Time.
And you can get carried in those games too. You can't get 100%. Carried. Well, at least not until 2x KO. You can't get carried in a fighting game, like at all. You can't do anything about that. There's no way to like magically manifest someone else to do it for you, you know, unless you get boosted, which gets you banned in like every game. So no, it's kind of interesting, and kind of to like rope us all the way back. Like one of the things we talked about is like, you know, you're not gonna always love the game, but there is a point that I believe, as a reminder, I will show on screen, the playing diagonals concept, where when we transcend the point of like, maybe you just don't actually enjoy this, and it's okay that you don't enjoy this, and that's where it's important for people to look in, and that self-accountability of like, how much of my problems is just me fighting the game, and whether it be my personal preferences or lack of understanding or all of the above, like that cause this type of stuff to happen.
Yeah, it is very interesting, because I think this perspective of like, do I gel with the game? Is absolutely a thing. If we talk
valid.
about games that, like, for me specifically, like HDR just did everything I wanted it to do, and I will shout out HDR till I die. It just did everything I wanted it to do. All the buttons worked how I wanted them to work, right? Like it just in my brain it made sense. And for some people that's Smash 4, for some people that's Melee, for some people that's Ultimate, for some people that's PM, for some people that's a billion things, whatever fighting game is your preference. And that's typically the one you most enjoy, because it takes that mental load off of feeling like you're fighting the game.
Yep. And I will say here on the flip side though, I, as you are aware, but many people might not know, am incredibly picky with fighting games nowadays. I don't have the time. And if there is something that is just like, hey, this isn't fun, I actively do not like interacting, whether it be sometimes it's as simple as just a character in that current patch or like a general mechanic. And like I'm gonna dox myself on this one, guys. I do not fuck with Drive Rush in Street Fighter 6. It is something that I am old head. I don't want to do it. I just don't like it. And it is simply, it's not that I think it's bad or like stupid or OP. I personally did not enjoy that part of the gameplay loop. I just didn't like it. And like, you know what I did? I fucking refunded it after 2 hours. That's it. I moved on. And I think this is a really big thing. And there are times where like a mechanic or a change in a game will get reverted. You know, Tekken just recently had this happen with a not so great patch dropped, and the devs owned it and are, you know, working their way back from it, right? But if it's like a cornerstone of the game, like Drive Rush, that's the game. That's the game. It's not going away.
Mechanic, it's not going away.
It's not going away. I just gotta hold it. And if I can put up with it, I put up with it. And if not, oh my God, I say this with my whole heart. Do literally anything else. Literally anything else. Please. Like, you do not have to like the game that everyone plays. This is like a really big trap that a lot of people fall into. And like, obviously it's hard when all your friends are playing and all this stuff, but like, if genuinely you are not having fun and you've put in the time and you learn all this stuff and you've like, I get it, just stop. And that's okay. Yeah. But it's hard when you're like 200 hours in. I get it. But like the hard part is it's just that self-accountability of being like, do I actually enjoy this? And to go all the way back to what we said, it's like, what am I getting out of this? Is there any satisfaction coming from this at all? Or am I just doing this completely out of spite?
Yeah, because I feel like I need to.
Yeah.
or because you've built a habit. I feel like that is
Yes.
something else that people do is they just are like, I played this fighting game with these people at this time on these days, and that's
Yeah.
just what I do.
I queue League of Legends for 6 hours at this time every day of the week. Yep.
It's hard to break that habit, even if you're not enjoying it, because it becomes a part of what your week looks like.
Yeah.
But I think in regards to stuff like, I'll use myself as an example. Like Rivals does not control or play exactly how I would have designed it.
I agree. Yeah.
Right? It's not exactly what I would have picked. But I enjoy playing Rivals a lot because it's close enough.
Mm-hmm.
And the aspects of it that I find frustrating are not so frustrating that I feel like I cannot play the game.
Exactly. Yep.
And so you do have to have that conversation with yourself. And I think the funniest example is DNF Duel.
Oh, I forgot that game existed. Holy, the king of Kusoges.
If you didn't play it, but
I regret not playing it.
Is so fucking fun, but everyone hates it because they're not real motherfuckers. They're not built like me.
I remember
is 50-50s into death. The game.
I remember.
So funny.
I will never, ever, ever forget when they first showed the gameplay trailer for that game, and it was like the paladin with like the really fucked up overhead into Oki.
Yeah.
All of my friends in the VC we were watching, it was at Evo, I think they announced it. We're like, oh, that's the Z character. That's just the fucking, oops, I won neutral. Get fucked, idiot. We're getting mixed. I was just like oh my God. It was so funny. So funny. Like, oh, yeah. I love it.
There was a character with a flame wheel that took up half the screen and was a low tier. Like that's how insane that game was. Like, it was truly ridiculous.
Like, I think a game that was almost like was closer to this, but it got more traction, and like this might be a hot take, was BB Tag. Blaze Blue Tag. That game
was insane.
I think that was made by AI before AI existed. That game was insane. It was like, let's unlearn every lesson we've ever gotten from an Arxis game, put them all in the same game and make them broken again, and just see what happens. And also, here's Ruby. And you were just like, what?
Yeah. What? On launch, that game had instances where you could punish people for like push blocking.
Yeah.
Or no, like you would push block and get a true punish because you push blocked and you had like full screen range. It was so dumb. But yeah, that game was insane.
Yeah.
But I think getting us back on topic of like the difficulty surrounding this and how the game changes, I think this is another notable aspect of why fighting games are difficult. And this exists in every game to a degree, but I think is accentuated in fighting games. The way that you play the game, the way that you see it, and the way that you interact with certain characters and moves and aspects of the game drastically changes depending on how good you are.
Yes.
Right? Like it really, really changes. And so if I use Rivals 2 as an example, and this was one of the tweets I put out recently, but whiff punishing in this game is hard. Yeah. No doubt.
Yeah.
It is hard.
Yeah, it's hard.
But whiff punishing in this game is possible. Right?
Yeah.
And when you get over the hump of when it goes from hard to doable.
Yeah. Oh, the whole game
changes. Or impossible to doable. Yeah. The way you get to interact with the game is different.
Completely.
My best example of why this felt okay for me is from Smash Ultimate, where I used to play the Greninja Ike matchup a lot. And this is such a deep cut in terms of actual relevance. Oh. One of the things that was frustrating was punishing Ike Nair with Greninja Dash Attack was really fucking hard because there's no lag on that move and it's big and you can't wave dash in Smash Ultimate.
Yeah.
But once you're able to, with some degree of consistency, let's say 70% plus, the way you get to play that matchup changes so dramatically that it's not hard anymore.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? And
Yep.
so there are instances where these skill checks are difficult or these aspects of the game are difficult. But once you learn them and once you can do them with some degree of consistency, the way that the game plays and the options that you have in the game are different.
Yep.
And if we go to something like Valorant, this is true from like a strategic lens. It's also true to a degree from like a shooting mechanics lens, because as you get better, you can take different angles and stuff like that.
Yep.
But at a baseline, most people understand shooting, you headshot someone, they die.
Yeah.
You want to execute on sites, you want to retake sites, you use utility to hit sites, whatever. Like most of that stuff people can get behind and can do with varying degrees of efficiency. And I think in games like that, there's like almost like a straight line that kind of goes up like on a
There'll
graph
be like jumps,
of,
but like 100%.
As you get better, the expectations from you are more and people get better at playing against it, but it's never a different game until you get to very, very high levels.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Whereas in fighting games, I feel like the level where it becomes a different game is casual to beginner or like intermediate to good, and then good to like high level. All have drastic differences in what the game is.
The way I always like to put it is like, that order is like good, like from good, it's like good to I care about getting good now. That's literally where there's a massive shift, because like I mentioned earlier, it's like where you start to seek actual knowledge and are actively trying to explore the game beyond just feel. I think that's like the biggest hurdle that happens, and especially fighting games, is there are so many magical forces of like how safe something is and everything, and it's like it is so hard to figure that out by feel without the assistance of a good training mode or like a friend to sit down with you and lab things. Like it's rough. Genuinely one of the hardest ways to learn a game is just sitting by yourself and vibing it out. And it just doesn't work like that nowadays. It just doesn't. There are lots of resources, thankfully, for almost most popular fighting games is the way I'll put it. There'll be lots of resources available, but I think it is very, very apparent, especially in a game like Rivals 2, where it's like the varying levels of agency when both people are aware of that changes the game dramatically. We're like at super low level, you're just pressing buttons and having a good time. You're SDing, it doesn't matter, right? And you start getting a little bit better at the game. It's like, okay, now I can hit these combos. These kill confirms start to happen. I know how to use my shield a little bit more. And it's like, okay, now I can do these strings. I understand how to mix you up and all this. And then it's just like, now I understand the game on a psychological level, and now I know how the engine functions on like the way it's programmed. And it's like the difference of someone fighting that and the tier just below can be a complete wash.
Yeah, and there's also like a degree of now I care about what you're doing.
Yes.
As opposed to just what I'm doing. And
exactly.
Now I feel confident enough in my execution that I'm not thinking about me. And
exactly. Yep. There's
a
real
conversation
confidence.
For another day about flow states and what that looks like in fighting games.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
you can tell when people get over the humps, because improvement, once it happens, is usually pretty drastic, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think it just reminds me of a comment I saw from someone. This wasn't anyone I knew, but it was just a comment I saw in the Aether with a lot of likes.
Sorry, keep going.
The rivals of Aether. It was a comment I just saw out in the Aether, and that kind of stuck out to me. But it was someone who said, I have trouble with fighting games because no other game requires me to go play by myself for an indeterminate amount of time to learn things on my own before I can play ranked. No other game requires that of you. And I think it was in a thread about 2xKO.
Yeah, it was about 2xKO. I saw that post.
I think it was in a thread about someone coming from League to 2xKO. And basically saying, for all the people saying just hop in the lab, what other genre asks you to do that?
Literally the closest thing to that is like aim lab. That's it.
And that's a different game.
Exactly. Yeah. And like the whole thing, like what's so hard too is it's so hard to gauge this because you have to have like a certain level of confidence. Like I equate learning combos to aim lab training. Like it's very similar because it's just the act of control and confidence and understanding how it actually just like works. Like this goes to this does this. And like, I think it's very, very similar to that. And having worked with a lot of players from that have played both genres, this is definitely like a shared feeling, but there's nothing like having to figure out what do I do when Scrimblow Blimblow hits me on block with this at this distance. There's just how do you figure it out by yourself? It's so hard.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing with 2XKO, and this is something that they thankfully changed for this coming beta, but the thing about 2XKO in that first beta was if you didn't know that when Echo put you in hard knockdown and had a clone on the ground, that you had a real ass 50-50 to guess on, and you didn't know how that worked or how to react to it, you just lost.
Yeah.
There was nothing about that made sense.
Yeah.
The same way that if Ari was locking you down with that stupid beam assist that she could run across the whole stage, and you didn't know how to deal with the 50-50s and the swaps, the character swaps that came as a result of that, because what people would do was do a reverse hit with Yasuo into switching to Ari and then do a falling overhead on the other side with her. Yeah. If you didn't know how that worked, and there's no one that tells you how it works, you just lost. Because you can reset into it every single time you reset pressure. There's nothing you can do to overcome it. And so it can be really difficult without friends, without prior know-how, without anything like that, to know how to deal with stuff like that. And thankfully, the devs made the game a little bit easier. And gave you a couple more defensive options that are pretty cut and dry to avoid situations like that. But it is really hard to deal with. And I think it is truly, it makes me think of Marvel 3 as
I will
truly
just say
one
this.
of the great and insane things
I will say this. As someone that I played like 6 hours of the 2XKO beta because I was doing Supernova that week, so I didn't have a ton of time to play. Played like 6 hours. You can sit, and as someone who played a lot of Marvel 2 and 3 in my life, I did anything in that game and I was like, oh, they like Marvel. And that is a good thing and a bad thing to some people. It's preference. And at the end of the day, this is my biggest thing to kind of start to trail as we get to the end of this topic is like, it's okay to have preferences, guys. You cannot like things and you don't have to play them. And you can play the thing that you used to like too. Like, what was it? I think it was Harada, Tekken director. People were like, oh, when are you gonna make this character get this skin and get this tool again? And he's like, guys, if you really genuinely like that
game exists.
Go play that game. That game literally exists. And especially when we have things like Fightcade and like servers are still up for lots of games. Like, listen, if a game is just like dead, like I get it. But like if these games are accessible, play them. And if more people aren't playing them, create spaces to get people to want to play them, to make it friendly and welcoming and fun. Don't sit and play apples to oranges every day on twitter.com and be upset that everyone doesn't have your preference, because no one's right and no one's wrong. We all got different taste buds for video games, and that's it. That's literally it.
I think an interesting example of this recently that I saw was the kind of small resurgence that Mortal Kombat X is having. And how good and fun and wacky and wild that game is. And it's far from perfect. But, like full disclosure, it's my favorite NRS game.
Oh, yeah.
By quite some degree. And a lot of people agree, especially in the wake of the last couple of games maybe not living up to expectations the way that they could have. And so people have been going back to Mortal Kombat X in a way that they haven't really before, because look, this game is fun. It's good. And you're allowed to play it still. And I think somewhere where my mind goes with this conversation is a lot of the time, and I don't want to say every time, But a lot of the time, people's favorite games have to do with the games that they got the best at.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
And in many cases, we'll say with like Melee, PM, Rivals,
Yeah.
PS, whatever, they're games with very, very high skill ceilings.
Yes.
Those are the ones that people look fondly
Yeah.
back upon.
No, I am openly, I've always said, like, I love CS 1.6. I love it. I hate CS2. I hate it with my whole being. It is not fun for me. I don't think it's objectively bad. It's just not what I loved about 1.6 in any capacity at all.
But I think as we get into this new era of fighting game design, and what I mean by that is I think Dragon Ball Fighters and Street Fighter 6 pioneered what I am going to call the new era of fighting game design.
Yeah.
The skill ceiling, whether you like it or not, is being lowered
all the way down
for the purpose of onboarding people to the genre.
Exactly.
Because unfortunately or fortunately, depending on your perspective, hardcore fans are here to fucking stay.
Yeah.
They're going to play fighting games no matter what.
Yep.
Me and Zeke and whoever the fuck are going to buy every new fighting game.
Oh, see me in Street Fighter 7. Me not liking 6 is not going to make me not try 7. I'm going to try 7.
I have every NRS game despite not liking one since Mortal Kombat X. Like, they got me by the freaking neck, man. But...
me when I get you.
I think we are the audience that's going to buy it no matter what.
Yeah.
Accessibility and lowering the skill ceiling and making the game more inclusive for new players. It's how you make the fighting game genre sustainable.
Yeah.
In a very like AAA forward gaming ecosystem. And so if you love those games like Melee, like, let me say like Accent Core, Marvel 3, if you love fucking games like that, play those games because
Demian Third Strike.
They don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
They're not going to. When I played the 2XKO beta, and they were like, oh, this is for newcomers. And I played the first one. I was like, this was made by some real fucking gamers.
Yeah, yeah.
And there is no way it stays like this. There's no way it stays like this.
And with the changes we've seen in the most recent devlog,
it's not staying like that.
Immediately it's changing. Yep.
They're making it easier. They're lowering the skill ceiling.
100%.
Significantly.
Yeah.
To keep new players in the game. And this is not to say that you can't get good at these games, that the skill ceiling can't still be somewhat high.
Yep.
But it's not as high as it was.
100%. Yep. And I think that there are people that definitely like that is a preference. And I think owning it, that like that is the thing that they like. And going back and playing the ones that they still can. Like I said it before, it's like, you really love this stuff, get on Fightcade. Hop on Fightcade. There are lots of gamers there that are down to put you in your place and you can get good again or better. They are more than down. You just need to take it upon yourself to go enjoy the things that you enjoy. And to kind of like put a little ribbon on all this. Whether the game is hard or easy or anything like that, the thing that I think the lesson in all this is that people need to stop taking what it might be their favorite game or a game that they really liked or a style of game that they really liked and creating it to be like, this is the gold standard, because that's just not how modern video games work. It's about innovation. It's about creativity. There will always be new things and new ideas. And the goal is being open-minded, but you don't have to like it. And you also don't need to tell people that they're wrong for liking it or not liking it, vice versa. Like, that's the cool part, is like, you can just play the game or not and move on.
Yeah, and there comes a degree of acceptance about the business aspects of video games and the ideas of onboarding and keeping new players and getting people interested, which does directly benefit good players.
Exactly. Yep.
But concessions need to be made. And if you want a not fighting game example, there is a reason Halo is 9 billion times more popular than Quake.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but
it's a fact.
Quake is fucking
Halo
awesome.
Is so awesome.
Quake is so sick. I fucking love Quake, but no one gives a shit. Right? Like Quake is too hard. Quake is too hard. Like, somebody will ruin. Someone will eat your lunch every time you try to play Quake.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Yep. It's real.
Games like Quake, multiplayer games like Quake, just don't exist anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the closest thing is Splitgate.
Ooh, Splitgate 2, baby! We're locking in. Oh, I'm so excited.
And I'm worried about Splitgate because the skill ceiling for Splitgate is so fucking high.
I'm so excited.
That I don't know if they're gonna be able to keep people.
I don't know, but you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do what I always do best. I'm gonna pick up a game. I'm gonna have a great time. I'm gonna make it to Diamond, and I'm just gonna gatekeep myself there, and it's gonna be awesome.
That's what I did in Splitgate 1.
Yep, I'm just gonna get comfy. There is a comfy point of I get this good, and if I want to get past this, I have to put in a genuine amount of time that I do not have, but I can still find joy without having to do that, and that's the point. Whether it be with my friends or by myself or whatever it may be, there's lots of ways to do this. I mean, hell, why do you think roguelikes are so popular? Like, that's the biggest thing is like you watch like someone play Hades like casually or like a little seriously, and then you watch like 32 Heat speedrunners, and you're like, what game are you playing right now? Like, that's awesome. But like, it's like a whole different game, completely different game. And yeah. No, I think it's really cool. I think there are a lot of creative games, and I think people just need to be more open-minded with trying things and being okay with not liking them.
And also, I think to a degree, to expand on what you said, okay with being bad.
Yes, that's a big one. It's okay to be bad.
If you want, I'll go back to Splitgate. If you want the Splitgate experience of not having to learn how to really use the portals and make off angles and do all that shit.
Yeah.
Don't get that much better at it. Like, I'm just don't.
Embrace it. Just have fun.
Play the part you want. And I think that actually, I think really accentuates the point of why onboarding people is important.
Yeah.
Because bad players matter.
They do a lot. They really do.
Because if your game doesn't have bad or mid-level players, onboarding bad or mid-level players is really hard. And that is, to a degree, I don't want to say 100% a problem that Rivals 2 has, but it is a degree of a problem that Rivals 2 has, where the average player who plays Rivals 2 is quite good at the game.
Oh, yes.
And that makes it harder for casuals to get onboarded, because even at the lowest ranks, they feel like they're getting shit on.
100% agree. This is a conversation I've been having a lot on my stream, where I've been getting actually a lot more new players slowly trickling into my community and being like, what is a wave dash? And I'm like,
help.
Absolutely. Here, there are like, what's cool is there are lots of videos made by people like Art of Rivals and Wisely and stuff like that go over like the super basics, and the vernacular, which is like the hardest part I think of a fighting game. Is like people will use a word in one fighting game and come here and be like, that's not what that word means here, or this word is not what we use here. I forgot. I sleeper agent awoken you into saying it. But no, I think this is a big thing, and like this happens in FPSs too. Like it's the same thing where all these words that they just don't mean anything in different games, or they have their own made up terminology. And spending the time to like be cool with being bad and figuring it out, or embracing it and being happy with the skill level you're at, if it still is where you find satisfaction and you like feel like productive, and then not in a productive growth, but like, I had a good time and cool, you know, see you guys next week. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's cool. You can do that, and that's okay.
Contrary to popular belief, you don't have to improve at everything all the time.
Yeah. It's really cool to just like I love booting up Overwatch and just comfortably being Diamond Masters level for the rest of my life. I'm just never going to get better than that. And it's so fun, and I have a great time most of the time.
It's an interesting conversation that I have a lot with people. Honestly, even outside of like the fighting game context, but just in like a life context. And I know this is getting off the rails, so I'll cut it short
even like
here.
Painting and stuff. Yeah, sorry. Keep going.
Just from the perspective of, you are allowed to do things and not be good at them.
Yes.
You are allowed to do things just because you like them. You are allowed to do things without the goal of improving at them. You
Yep.
don't have to get better at everything. And many people feel this immense pressure
Yeah.
in their day-to-day life because it feels like everything they interact with, whether it be gaming, whether it be work, whether it be their personal life, whether it be hobbies, whether it be whatever
Exactly.
the fuck, they feel like they need to constantly get better at it.
Yep. And you just don't.
And it's just, you don't have to.
Yeah.
If you enjoy being a shitty painter and you just love painting, be a shitty fucking painter, man.
Exactly.
It
Exactly.
literally doesn't
Yes.
matter.
That's the best part about it. If you are enjoying it and you find joy, you find satisfaction, you feel productive, it makes you feel better about whatever, do it 100%. And that's how you can use fighting games and FPSs and anything, roguelikes, whatever. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that covers that topic completely. I think we're good on that. Do you have any final thoughts, off that?
Yeah, someone mentioned, and this would get me going again, so I'll just mention it potentially as a future topic because I think it's important. But the idea that failure is a necessary, required, and normal part of actual improvement.
Yeah.
And this idea that you don't get anything from failure or failure comes as a result of you doing a bad job is antithetical to actual improvement.
Yep.
And there's a whole conversation I know you and me both could have about that.
Oh, I could talk about our conversations of having that. I remember, but maybe we'll talk about that next episode. Maybe we'll talk about failure next episode. We can go into the nurse being coached minds of 20 odd years of fighting games.
No, I'm built different.
All right. We're right here on the tail end. And in relation to a lot of this topic that we've been going over today and a lot of the things similar to this, the media of the week that I chose is a video called I Quit and You Shouldn't Care by Rilo, Riloe. This will be obviously linked in the description. And for any of our live watchers, I'm putting this in the chat right now. This is a video that I absolutely love, and it follows a creator who played a lot of Tarkov. Escape from Tarkov, for anyone not familiar, is an extraction shooter. And over the years, it's a game that has changed a lot. It
has a very high skill ceiling.
And is very hard
very
and
high
punishing.
Skill ceiling. Yeah.
And in the vein of a lot of this, he talks about his experience where why he stopped playing and what pressured him into feeling like he needed to keep playing for as long as he did. And it being like going into the psychology of like why we keep playing. Oh, that's the total wrong link. Holy shit. Why people go into the process of doing this, where they get stuck playing these games over and over and over and over. Like, it's just not copying. I'm actually a mess right now. Oops. Yeah, there's the link. Why we get stuck into the cycle of playing things even if we don't like them. This is a very fascinating video that I really enjoy. Please give it a watch.
It's good. And I think it is especially pertinent right now if you are a Smash Ultimate player who has been frustrated for the last 2 years.
Yeah, I agree.
I think I run into this constantly. I've had talks with multiple people about this, including other top players, commentators, people all over the spectrum have had conversations about this exact topic of why it is so hard to quit.
Yep.
And the mental gymnastics and honestly mental kind of fortitude you need to put something down after you have played it for as long as we all have.
Yep.
And I think it ties into the topic that we had, but I think the video sums it up pretty well in terms of where your kind of mind goes to. But it is hard. It is very, very hard, especially with the social aspect of fighting game tournaments and how people get caught up in that and how much time you put in.
Exactly.
And the memories of the joy that it used to bring you and the depth of the learning that you've done and every single aspect that goes into this. And even just that recognition of I'm not having fun anymore is something so many people don't even come to for over a year.
Yep.
When they stopped enjoying it already.
Exactly.
And so having that conversation with yourself of, am I still having fun? Do I like what the game is? And it comes back to that radical acceptance piece. What here do I get to control?
Yeah.
What do I affect? When I get to play the game in terms of having fun, what is in my control? And has this gotten so far outside of my control? And has the negative aspect of it become so overwhelming that the option is quit?
Yeah.
And that is not a natural or easy place to get to when you have a habit of participating.
Yep. Awesome. All right. I think that is where we are going to wrap up episode 3.
I have my media of the week.
Oh, you didn't link it.
Trying to cut me
off.
You
didn't link it in the doc.
I just wrote it down.
You didn't write it down in the doc. I'm looking at it. What is your...
write it down in the doc. You're Jim.
Oh, I see it. Okay, what's your media of the week? Now.
Okay, my media of the week. Yeah, unsubbed Seek. I hate you. My media of the week is a movie called Sinners that just came out yesterday. It is directed by Ryan Coogler, who's the guy who did Black Panther.
Cool.
And it stars Michael B. Jordan as twins. So he plays 2 characters.
Okay.
The movie, I want to describe it as broadly as possible because it's brand new. Yeah. And I want people to go see it without too much spoilers. But very broadly, 2 black men in the 1930s came across some money and are trying to open up a... they call it a juke joint, kind of like a bar dance kind of place in a planting community in the 1930s, or in a plantation community, and they get attacked by vampires. That is the
wow, that was a crazy twist. Holy shit.
That is the very, very broad description of the movie. It is legitimately incredible.
That's awesome.
The cinematography is amazing. The references to culture are amazing. Michael B. Jordan acts as 2 characters that are twins. You can tell the differences between them when they are speaking and interacting with people. And it has a very cool connection to cultural music and the basically times. It is very hard not to recommend to anyone.
That's awesome.
It is very, very, very good. So without getting too much more into it, like I said, because it is brand new and I'm probably the only one here who's seen it.
To repeat the name again, it is called Sinners.
It's called Sinners by Ryan Coogler as the director with Michael B. Jordan. So yeah, everyone should go give that a watch because it is one of the best movies I've seen probably in the last 5 years.
That's sick.
It would be probably in my top 10 I've seen in the last 5 years. It's very good.
Awesome. For real this time now, we are going to wrap up episode 3. I totally can read and do my job, guys. Thank you all for being here. As always, make sure to go and check out us on all our platforms, whether it be YouTube, Spotify, and Twitter. And if you have any suggestions, please let us know. And don't forget to vote on whether this episode is a cast or a curse. Have a great day, everybody.